family. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome. I'm gonna, this meeting is being recorded. Thank you. Public comment. Okay, hearing none, I'm going to move on to approval of minutes. I move to approve the minutes of the Monday, July 11th, 2022 regular meeting of the Board of Selectmen. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
A couple of comments, really just corrections. Page, I don't know what page this is because I printed them all off together. Let's see, item, 11, I'm sorry, 13. Down at the bottom of the page, I think that's supposed to say 180.
I'm sorry, for,
Oh,
the statute.
yes, you're right, it is supposed to be 180.
180
Oh, yeah,
days.
Yes.
yeah, you're right.
And then one other comment, I think just for clarification, on the last page, so it'll be item 13, first sentence at the top of the page, on the role of ABO
Mhm.
after Jerry's appointment ends, I think it should say, Selectman Gorski will identify
Yeah,
steps
I
to
just-
ensure we
Yeah,
have.
yeah. So, what happens is I typically write my notes, so I send them off.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
you know,
I forgot to fix things.
that makes perfect sense.
Otherwise, I thought they were well written.
So on number 4, the motion seconded by Annino passed, it wasn't 300, it was 201. I abstained because I wasn't there at the June
Okay.
meeting.
Okay.
On number 10, subsection C, the third paragraph where it says Gorski moved to approve. The dates are 1/1/2021 to 9/20/2021, and then it says Brian Walsh for his period of service 9/21 to 6/30/2021. I think you mean 6/20/22. Is that correct?
What page are we on?
Page 2, number
Oh,
10,
down here.
subsection C.
Oh, I'll have to double check the period because.
Well, it would have to be something different because you can't go
Right,
from
no, I
September.
understand, I understand, I'll have to check what it should be, because I just picked that up.
Good catch.
I think that for the benefit
I
of
think
the
it's
minute,
22,
the benefit of the minutes, the amended in number 11 old business where it has Annino moved to approve the ARPA funds draft policy, that a copy of the actual policy with those changes should be added to the minutes. Not just the bulleted changes here. So can you add it as attached to the edits for the minutes for this meeting to update? Just because these are out of context, and so I think for the historical record, we would want a copy of it included.
We usually just have to make the copies available upon request, but I can add it, it'll be in the following month.
Yeah, I mean, I can add it as a new item if you want me to do it that way. Is that cleaner? I just, cause it's hard to read the, historically people wanna go back and see what's the policy. It's not here. And so I just was thinking for ease of reading the changes, so I can add it as a new business item if you want, or an old business item or something.
No.
Well, I think we can certainly just add the policy minutes, or
Yeah,
the
we-
policy to the town website.
I like them to be with the minutes because we spent a lot of time talking about it, and just for the record, if that's okay.
That's fine.
I can add it if you'd want as an item.
Nope,
Okay.
not necessary.
Good.
We got the 80. Also on number 13, on page 4, you indicated Selectman Gorski said she would identify next steps to ensure we have the resources we need for a building department. I explicitly asked if we would post the position, and that wasn't noted in the notes. And those are my changes.
Okay, all those.
Just the question was asked, but was there an answer?
I don't know if it was answered. There was a lot of mumbling, I can't remember.
I'm fairly sure we answered it in the affirmative, that we said
Okay.
yes, it would be posted.
Okay.
And posting, so one of the things that gets done when I send it out to the state, for any acting building official, we do ask the state to post it. The challenge is, there's not a lot of open positions. And there continues to we need to focus on this area for sure, and, but anyways, all those in favor of,
Aye.
yes, as amended. Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Refunds and abatements, I move to approve the following refunds and abatements, all for overpayment. Let's just double check. We have 1, 2, 3, we have 10, all for overpayment.
I second it.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Economic recovery, we had 2 resignations. I do have one letter from the Republican Town Committee. I move to appoint David L. Long, Republican, to the Economic Recovery Committee.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
I just want to add to the record that it's to replace Dick Bowers'
Dick
position.
Bowers, correct.
Yeah.
I, just out of curiosity, it says Mr. Long is more than qualified to fill this role, but there's no information about who Mr. Long is. I don't know him. Are you
Mr.
here?
Long is right here.
Oh,
He's a
okay.
bad apple.
You're the bad apple?
No, I heard that,
Thank
yeah.
you for your willingness to
Sure.
jump in. We appreciate it.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. I did not receive a letter from Annie about Lucinda's replacement. Have either of you?
She reached out to me and said that she was expecting to have a candidate, but did not expect to have one for this meeting.
Okay, that's fine. All right, moving on. Acting building official, and as we talked about at our last meeting, by statute, we cannot reappoint Jerry Russ. I recommend we appoint Richard Pleines, and I will work with Richard during the period to identify a long-term solution for our building official needs. That said, I move to appoint Richard R. Pleines II as acting building official for a period of 180 days beginning August 18th. Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion?
A couple of questions. I would like to know what the conditions of this are, working hours. I believe you're still working for the city of Clinton, the
Yeah.
town of Clinton. And so I would like to know, what does this 180 days mean in terms of hours of service, office hours?
It makes
for the
perfect
town?
sense. It's less than 20 hours because we're not putting anyone as an employee. And right now, Richard is working evening shifts, so we need to figure out how to fill in for day shifts.
Given that, why wouldn't we just extend the temporary employment situation that we have now?
We can't.
Why?
For Richard or for the
Because of state
building?
statute.
No,
You're talking about,
I mean, the current.
Well, we could extend Jerry as an employee.
No. Right now, we have an agreement to employ Mr. Pleines for supplemental services to
Correct.
the town, and he's working evenings to do that, and I certainly very much appreciate that. Why wouldn't we just continue that?
Well, we can continue that, but we need an offering so that people who want appointments during the day, we need to find somebody who could deal with the day. Is that correct, Richard?
When I was doing both, it was about 15 to 18 hours a week. I can't maintain that. I can do the administrative part as a BO. I'm looking at ABOs and RBIs that can come in during the day, do the inspections, and handle that stuff. And I just handle the administrative part until we can get somebody that can come in as a BO. I'd already drafted up a job description, Nancy's got it. We just have to finalize it, you guys just have to put a number on it, and then I can send it up to the state and they'll post it to everybody that's listed in the state.
I think I'd like to see the details of that before I move this forward then.
We don't have much, so if you're gonna make yourselves available for a special meeting, because as of August 18th, it is already August 8th, so we got 10 days. We're not gonna meet again in time for this to occur. I just wanna make sure we don't have a gap.
So he said he drafted a job description and information. I would have thought that's something that we would have done or looked at before we're.
Well, obviously,
right?
yeah, from a job description standpoint, we've had one, but Richard has drafted it. Sorry if I didn't give it to you in advance. But at this point, like I said, we're running out of window here. If you wanna see all of this, then we're gonna have to have a
So
special
let
meeting.
me ask, I mean, the appointment establishes an individual who represents that function.
Correct.
So that's really all we're doing right now.
That's all we're doing.
And it's no commitment beyond whatever commitment that we currently have in place for that position.
That's correct. So we can look at that job description at our next meeting on the 25th, approve that for posting.
So this is, he's not currently acting, Mr. Pleines is not acting as acting building official. What is he acting as right now?
He is a supplementary building official doing work because we are trying to drive down the number of open building permits. Now, we can't appoint Jerry. We put Richard in this position. At our next meeting, I can give you that job description for posting,
Yeah.
as well as a plan for how we're going to attack this. Because we're also gonna need to find somebody to fill in for the day. For the most part, evenings work well, but Richard won't be able to keep up with it.
And we could also revisit that as a model.
Correct.
It may not be the right model for the town, but
Correct.
that's why we wanna look at that. I wanna
Absolutely.
look at that.
No, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah, I don't wanna presuppose, anything. So I am a bit confused. So are you recommending now that, or are we recommending that he continue in the role of supplementary BO while
No.
we resolve the job posting for the position before the 180 days?
No, I
You
need
have to have a
I'm
building,
sorry.
you have to have a building official to sign certificates and applications. So you need that in place, and they have to be appointed as.
And it has to be appointed by the state, so.
That's why I think we
why-
talked about at the last meeting about getting it posted then.
Well, we haven't. So at this point, I do want to appoint Richard as acting building official. And then we move forward with getting it posted. It's been posted for a while. There's just for years, and there has not been anyone with credentials to be able to fill these positions. That's the challenge we're running into.
So did you wanna do a special meeting to look at the job description, or do you want to?
I'm okay with the appointment, just as, you know, as I understand it, it establishes someone as the building official on an interim basis. And we currently operate under the current business arrangement that we have.
Correct.
Until we get an opportunity to review the proposal or consider other alternatives.
Correct. All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We move forward. All right, department reports. Kathy.
Hello,
Hi.
everyone.
Hi, Kathy.
Very good. I missed our beginning of July update, so I have a June and July update, so it's pretty lengthy. My apologies for that. So, first of all, right near the end of the school year, we celebrated our district teachers of the year, our district staff of the year, district retirees, and our top 10 students for 2022, which is fabulous. We're also now, the board, if anyone's interested, we're starting to get, we've always had students from the high school come and give a high school update. We now have incorporated students from the middle school, so we have 2 students coming and giving an update of the middle school, which is fabulous. A few subcommittee updates. So from the facilities group, they're working on, over the summer, there's a number of updates that we've made, that we're working on, upgrades in the facilities at KES, at Burr. We also did, the facilities subcommittee reported to the town leadership where the tectonics assessment was presented, and we're planning an update, I believe in September for that, a follow-up meeting in September, I think, for that. That was the large-scale capital assessment that we talked about.
That was the firm that did the assessment, right? Tectonic?
Yes,
Okay.
Tectonic, yep. My apologies. So the finance group, it looks like our anticipated fund balance of $298,217.10. This balance includes an insurance prepayment, so our budgeted insurance increase of 8%, the actual increase was 10.5%, so that covers that. At the end of the fiscal year, we'll have a final year-end report, that's still pending. We haven't talked so much about this, but our policy subcommittee has been spending the last last year or so going through our entire policy and updating all of our policies, so that's nearing the end. We're just wrapping up a couple more policies, and all the Board of Ed policies will be up to speed. Some of them are as old as from the 1990s, so they all needed refreshing. It was a big unit of work. We performed the superintendent's year-end review and goals. Both of those are available. Strategic planning, you've heard me talk about this quite a bit. So our strategic planning process is nearing the end, and the strategic plan was essentially approved by Superintendent Wibby and then passed to him. And over the summer, now comes the implementation of our strategic plan into the curriculum of the district. All of the strategic plan information can be found on our website. I'm going to say that again at the end. For your aware, from a curriculum point of view, we're instituting a new Black and Latino curriculum class at the high school level. It is a state statute they passed about 2 years ago that need to be implemented into this coming school year. They provided some curriculum, and we've gone through the curriculum and updated it, so that will be an elective history class at the high school level. Okay, and let's see. Finally, let's see what else I'm going to tell you about. There were some new hires based on the proposal by the superintendent and the passing. So we have a new special ed coordinator overseeing the preschool program. You heard about this during the budget discussion. In addition of a middle school assistant principal. So when we combined the buildings of the intermediate school and the middle school, we went with a trial, one principal for each school. We're finding that there's gaps in the process, and so we added a middle school assistant principal. We also have final interviews and have hired an assistant superintendent.
Who you already have hired.
Yes, we have hired the assistant superintendent.
What's the name?
Okay.
Well, that's okay. It's okay. It's fine. Didn't mean to touch it.
Let me
sorry.
check. I know.
It's really, you don't need to. It's
Yeah,
okay.
thank you. I'll get it in
Can
for
you tell me a little more about the gaps that you were talking about between the principals and the need for the assistant principal?
Yeah, it's essentially at the middle, so, for historical, when we closed HES, just to give you the backstory, we closed HES, the elementary schools had been K through 4, and the middle school was 5 through 8. When we closed HES, there was a reconfiguration and a generation of an intermediate school, so the elementary schools were now K3. There's an intermediate school that's 4, 5, a middle school that's 6, 7, 8. So the intermediate and middle school are both in the same buildings, okay, just as backup. When we did that consolidation, there had been principals at each elementary school, and in the middle school, a principal and an assistant principal. So we did all the consolidation. The intermediate school and the middle school were 5 grades, and the decision was made to try with a intermediate principal, a middle school principal with no assistant principal. There was a lead teacher that was in charge of student activities and that sort of thing. And they were finding in the middle school that there was a gap in the ability of the administrators to oversee the middle school, the 3 grades of middle school, including teacher evaluations, discipline, all the things that the administration of a school performs. There wasn't enough administrators to do all those required work, so the superintendent proposed adding an assistant principal at the middle school, or re-adding. We had one in the past. Does that answer your question?
It does. It sort of sounds to me a little bit like we're buying back into the savings that we got by shutting down the school.
Well, we had a lead teacher, so we converted the lead teacher back to an assistant principal.
Was it headcount neutral?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Yeah, that works.
And the assistant superintendent, if I recall correctly, that is primarily for HR activities?
Yes. Yes, we had, so the exiting superintendent, Holly Hageman, the interim superintendent, Jan Pettifoot, and our new superintendent all agreed that HR and oversight of the entire district, I mean, we have a large budget, 3/4 of our budget is HR, right, between, salaries and benefits. And so there was not a consistent overview of the HR aspects of the district. And so those three experts, as well as an independent review of central office, all agreed that oversight of HR was a gap, that had existed for a long time.
I thought that was covered really well in the budget meetings that you all did for us with finance and the joint boards of ed from the two towns.
Yep.
Boards of selectmen, boards of ed.
Good, thank you.
Yeah.
When are we gonna know more about how Tectonic's recommendations gets rolled out? When do we know what the impact on budgets will be as you look at your 1 to 3, 3 to 5,
Yeah.
5 to 10?
It's a good question. So just again, for background for everyone, we hired Tectonics a year or so ago to come in and do a capital assessment of the entire district, buildings, et cetera. So they came out with a report. It's available on the website. We presented it to you earlier this year, I think in April and May.
Right.
In that is a stunning amount of, we all know our buildings are old. Some of them are oldish, some of them are very old. And all of them are in need of current and future upgrades, what have you. And so they presented their recommendations for improvements. And that's as far as we've gotten so far, is it's just an external engineering body saying these are all the things that you could do or should do, might wanna think about doing. It's kind of a combination. And those are laid out in the report, and by year and by building, by school. We have not made any decisions on what of that to do and how to do it. That's within the facilities subcommittee we're talking about that now. So far, all we have is their report and their assessment. This is not a action plan for the district. It's a expert review.
So time will tell.
Time will tell. Yeah.
Thank you, Gabby.
You're welcome.
I also, we provided, building department, health district reports, tax collector reports, transfers and engineering. On the building department, I did, also include a summary of where we are on the open building permits. There was a letter that went out specifically for pools to try to close things out. You'll see that we're trying to make a dent in these open building reports, and that's something that's an ongoing effort.
So we only sent one letter out specific to pool?
Correct. And then after that, we'll send out more.
Okay, all right.
The other thing, there is the report from Nathan Jacobson and Associates as to where they are with all of their reports, I shouldn't say reports, all of their activities. I asked for that quarterly, so I think that's a good ad, so we find out what's going on. I do know that Walt is working with Nathan Jacobson on the culvert situation on Green Hill to figure out next steps for that as well. Any questions on department reports?
I do have a question about CRAHD.
Yes.
So we're a few months into relying on CRAHD to fulfill the public health role. Do you have any feedback on what's worked, what hasn't worked, what could be improved, where improvements have been made?
Everything has been going well. Where we ran into a bit of a challenge was with, and Elizabeth can correct me here, when we had to deal with Sheldon Park and when we had to deal with the library for water issues. There seems to be a bit of a gap. Sheldon Park, they didn't open up the snack shack And by state statute, even if they don't open it for sales, we have to test the water. So there's a little bit of a, oops, that didn't happen, so we're working through that. And the library was sponsoring, there was some sort of a water event this past weekend. And when we went in to test the water, there was a, wasps, or there was a,
Some kind of insect nest under the cap of the well
in
pump.
which caused bacteria. Then they had to chlorinate it, then they couldn't get enough chlorine out of it, so
To
it's,
retest it.
yeah, so the water testing gap we have to address. But other than that, they've been doing fine. They do provide us updates on all of the health issues. They've been bringing us updates on monkeypox. They've been bringing us updates. They provide from the health department all their sanitarian reports. It's just keeping ahead of the water testing, and I'll have a conversation with Scott about that to see how we make that gap work better.
So are we fine? Do we just have to notify DPH when we miss something like that? You said.
Well, DPH will notify us, and we'll have to post something that you can't use that water. But what we need to do is become proactive
Right.
instead of reactive.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sorry, I know at the beginning there was a question in the public hearing or at the town hearing about hours and whether there were gonna be, I think it came up there and you may have even raised it, I don't remember, Nancy, but about hours that they would be here in the building. Has that been resolved? Have we
They're
had any
in,
issue?
I will say they're in the building 3 to 4 days a week.
Good, okay, great.
And if it's not Rebecca, it's Brian. So they do manage that very well.
Thank you.
But I do need to get ahead of them on water testing. Budget report, I think Gina sent out a budget report.
She did.
Any questions on it? I know she's working on over-unders, so that'll be coming up at town meeting at some point, so. All right, moving on to new business. The end of charge for the Committee on Alternative Housing. As the Committee on Alternative Housing has fulfilled their charge, I move to disband the committee.
Second?
Any discussion?
I did have a question. Sorry, at the last meeting, there was a question, we talked about, did I write it down? I'm sorry, just hang in there with me for a minute. There was something that we were gonna check on with the alternative housing.
They did fulfill all of, they approved all of their minutes, if that's what you're looking for.
Something else, I'm not finding it, so just one more minute. Did I not write it down? It might be in my other notes. Let me just see if I wrote it here. Oh yeah, there was a discussion about, the deed restrictions, and the assessor was gonna look into responding to the request about the deed restrictions and whether they'll be able to consider the inclusion of the rent restricted apartments at the traffic circle. Do you know if it was updated?
No,
And that was really affordable appeals list, but I was thinking of it as associated with
Yeah, that's.
alternative housing. It
that's
really is different.
Independent, yeah.
Yeah.
So all those in favor say aye?
Aye.
All right, Traffic Safety Committee. So, since July 1, we've had 11 traffic accidents, 1 death. Our serious, areas are 81. We've had issues at the Circle, we've had issues at Roast Meat and 80, we've had issues at, Stevens and 81. We've had issues at 148 and 81. The last time the Traffic Safety Committee met was in 2013. And we're having more and more challenges going to the state, trying to defend not only putting in traffic signs, no through, all of that. I'm wondering if now is the time to reinstate the Traffic Safety Committee, let them do some of this research for us, and come back to us with some clout that we can go to the state with.
Mhm.
That's my only my only thought here is give the power back to the people. The people are requesting more and more more and more attention to be paid to traffic safety. We give it back to them. We would have our state trooper as an ex officio member. Probably need to have Walt also participate on that. But it would be a 5-member board, very similar to the way it was set up in 2006 to 2013.
I think a member of the fire department should be on that.
That's a great
Yeah.
recommendation as well, because they're spending a lot of time.
They're the first responders at all of these things. They
So-
should be represented.
I move to charge a traffic safety committee to review safety issues and make recommendations to the BOS to make our roads safer. The traffic safety committee will be comprised of 5 members and the resident state trooper as an ex officio member. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Alright, moving on, 2021 DEMHS 3-year Homeland Security Grant and Resolution. So, I'm gonna take the resolution first. I move to approve the authorizing resolution of the BOS authorizing and directing me as first selectman to execute and deliver any and all documents on behalf of the BOS.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Each year, the region begins a new 3-year grant. At any given time, there are 3 to 4 grants active, as they each have a 3-year performance period. So they've given me the traditional schedule. At this point, because we thought it was odd that they asked us for a 2021 grant, but everything sort of moves in and out of flux. So I move to approve the 2021 DEMHS 3-year Homeland Security Grant Memorandum of Understanding.
I second it.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Nancy, I do have a point on this authorizing resolution. Up here it says August 8th, down here it says August 9th, on the 9th day.
Okay. Good catch.
Well, this gets
Well, it gets
certified
signed
by Dawn tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
This is from Dawn Mooney, this is actually from, you
Okay.
guys are, this is saying that this meeting happened and that Nancy's the first selectman.
So she's gonna certify it.
It's really just Dawn certifying.
Okay.
Dawn certifies it.
Okay, thank you.
Right. So now moving on to Vista Life Innovations. So Vista Life Innovations is an organization that we as a town contribute to, and they asked me to put together a proclamation for their graduating class. And let me just, thank you. So, whereas Vista Life Innovations offers programs and pathways to independence for young adults with neurological disabilities. Whereas Vista's Discover program, a residential transition program where students learn the skills necessary to live independently through experiential training in a community-based setting. Whereas graduation is a significant milestone acknowledging the independence and success students worked hard to achieve while in the Discover program. Now therefore, let it be resolved that the Board of Selectmen recognize the 2022 graduates of Vista Life's Discovery Program: George Barnett, Elizabeth DePatry, Henry Fisher, Christopher McDonald, Stephen Miller, and Jennifer Pollitt. All those I move to approve that following proclamation. All those in favor say aye.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So you said we contribute to it?
Wait, well, let's put the, just process. Second. Yes.
So how do we contribute to it?
It is one of the, community organizations we contribute to, thank you.
Also, we have students
And we have students in town.
as well. I work for them, so.
Are any of those students from Killingworth?
Yes, not these, but we do have students from Killingworth that are part of Vista.
So they're not Killingworth kids?
They can be, they
Yeah,
will.
But these are not?
These are
no.
not.
do we do proclamations for instance, state championships, like we won the wrestling state
We
championship
haven't,
or
but this is the
cross-country?
first time Vista Life actually reached out and asked us physically, she asked me to do this. And I think it's a feel good for the children in Vista Life. So,
I certainly get the point about the feel-good piece. I'm struggling a bit with these are not residents of the town. The organization doesn't reside in the town. At some point, they provide some services to the residents of this town. I get that, but I don't know if this is the right use of a proclamation. I'm wondering maybe if a letter from the Board of Selectmen's office or from the First Selectmen's office would serve the same purpose.
they asked for a proclamation because that makes.
Who's they?
Vista Life,
Who?
the CEO of Vista Life.
Okay.
But I get your point. We have a second. Let's just go through this. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Alright, motion fails. And I can reach out to Vista Life and tell them that we can send a letter.
I think that's a more appropriate and deserving action, and I think a letter from your office signed by you would be appropriate to acknowledge this, certainly this accomplishment and highlight in those, I think there are 8 individuals.
Are those nays or
education.
abstains, or are you abstaining or nay votes?
I'm gonna abstain.
Abstain.
So I guess, I have kids that benefit from various programs at HK, and I think about a lot of the programs that we have at the school. We have a lot of kids that would benefit as well, and it's hard because, these kids, but, they could be from Guilford, they could be from, and those are probably the right towns. We have kids that have done some extraordinary things every year. They're doing extraordinary things. Some we hear about, some we don't. And we don't acknowledge them in any way as a town here.
Yeah, I will
So-
say that the CEO did reach out specifically for a proclamation, so kudos to her.
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
Yeah,
it's inappropriate. Could I just add, do you know what Vista is?
So yes, I
Okay.
did look up what Vista Life
Okay.
does.
These are not ordinary students.
Yeah, and I don't want to discount the accomplishment. For me, it's more about being consistent across what we do for all of our children's accomplishments, and more from this office, I think it should be focused on the accomplishments of the students of this town.
Well, I will say graduation at Vista is a very big stepping stone. Not that it's not a stepping stone for any child going from high school into the independent world, but it's more so of an accomplishment after spending time speaking with her and understanding what they go through. So, this was new to me. I'd never seen this before. I was just following along with the process, so, but I will send a letter.
Was there a reach out to other towns?
Yes, yeah, they did. They absolutely reached out to other towns. So, it's important, I think, that we recognize them, and a letter from me will do the same thing. All right, I'm gonna move on. Pickleball, and I know, you wanted to talk about pickleball.
I did. Thank you for putting it on the agenda. I appreciate it. Apparently you guys spoke about it. I guess I was in Scotland when it was brought up at one of the meetings, so I'm sorry I wasn't here. It is an issue. I don't play pickleball. I've never played pickleball. I had to read about what it was when, that in the fall, when various people asked me about it in town. When I was out and about meeting folks, a lot of people talked to me about pickleball and how it's changed their life. They were prior tennis players. We have a lot of seniors in town who like pickleball, play pickleball, are excited about pickleball. It's the fastest growing sport in the United States. The New Yorker had an article in the last month. Do you play pickleball, Mr. Watt? There you go. So we have one benefactor here, or
I'm
one.
a member of the U.S. Pickleball Association.
There you go. All right. So it's not up and coming. It's here, and we have a lot of folks in town who go to other towns to play because we don't really have. And I know there was an issue about nets, and I guess I look at it this way: we have a lot of seniors who play pickleball, and we do a lot for kids in our town, we do a lot for various folks. I think that I think we should talk to Park and Rec and ask them to think about where they could put pickleball courts. I think we should build specific courts for the pickleball nets. It could be on town property, it could be in any location, but I'd like to recommend as a board that we consider asking the Park and Rec to come back with a plan for us for pickleball courts. I don't want temporary nets on a tennis court. I want dedicated courts for the people of the town. We have a lot of seniors. We don't do a lot for the seniors. They pay an extraordinary amount of taxes in this town. It's a small thing. One set of pickleball courts I priced out is $30,000. I'm sure we could do it, you know, there's all different kinds of prices out there, but it's something that I think we should do for the seniors in our town.
I would certainly echo that, and I agree, and I think we made a small gesture towards meeting their request, but I think it's worthy of a much greater look-see. I agree that we should ask Park and Rec to make a recommendation, not whether or not this should happen, but where these should happen. And the other thing is that I would ask for a contribution from the Pickleball Association of Killingworth, where they would like to see these, because that's
The challenge
group
they-
that we need to
Right.
address.
I mean, they've gone to Board of Finance, they've been here before, they did get a request for nets has been approved. But it's.
The nets are in.
Yeah, and it's over at Sheldon.
Yep.
And Sheldon is not exactly the ideal location, there's a lot of road noise. We do have an outstanding Park and Rec, grant for
Mhm.
what they're gonna do with fields. Gina and I talked about this earlier today. I do need to reach out to Jim and see where they're at with that.
Mhm.
And they also need to figure out, can they use that grant in addition to baseball fields?
I wanna, but I wanna be careful, let's not make this about money right
Money.
now. Let's find out what they want, and let's push our Park and Rec people to cite these things consistent with what that ask is, and then we can figure out, we got options, that grant being one, but there are others.
Well, do we move anything now, or do we wait for budget season to put this in as a pickleball?
I don't wanna wait, let's do the upfront work now, and when come, if we need to put it in at budget time, we will.
Okay.
Now's the time to do the legwork.
All the planning and they can do situational awareness, collect information, pricing, whatever they need to do to bring back to us, so we're ready for budget season.
And just interrupt for a second, and to remind this group that we really are farther along than we thought, because it is on the multi-year plan. So Park and Rec did put it on year 23, 24, 25 as a placeholder, so yeah.
Let's move it up in priority.
Yeah, so we're not as far back as we thought.
Nancy, there was a question.
Oh,
I
sorry.
was just gonna make a comment with Jamie brought that up. You should be sorry you just brought this up, Jamie. 4 years ago, I've been playing pickleball for 7 years down in Florida. We came up here and nobody knew what pickleball was. We were playing one afternoon over at the Haddam Killingworth tennis courts. I had bought tape and everything, we were giving lessons, and I met this crazy lady named Jackie Wilcox. And she said, well,
Who's
you know,
that
we're
here?
trying to get somebody together here in Killingworth. Well, there's 110 members now.
Wow.
Wow,
And I say that's an abstract number, but it's over 100.
congratulations.
We do Madison in the winter months, and then we also do Saybrook, and we do the YMCA in the winter months when the weather outside is inclement, and they turn their basketball courts into pickleball courts, which is, God bless you, confusing because of all the lines and stuff. But it is the fastest growing sports. It's coming into the junior high schools, the high schools. The military is playing because it's so inexpensive.
And it's easier on your knees, which I appreciate now, because I have a new one. So,
So-
And Nancy, Jackie did put in, this all came from Jackie's original request to the Board of Finance for nets. She also put in a request to the Economic Recovery Committee for the pickleball courts. That request has already been sent to them.
I do understand that the Economic Recovery Committee did say, though, that because it wasn't placed early enough, it wouldn't be considered. So that may be, it's what trickled back, but in any
That's
event,
not
going
what was
back
said.
to what I said at the very beginning, I think it's something we need to do, and I appreciate the support the Board of Selectmen has shown with my suggestions, so thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Should,
Thank you.
I move to explore options to promote pickleball in Killingworth.
I move to ask, I'm gonna amend your
Yep.
motion. I move that we request, or somehow to request the Park and Rec do the work. So I think we need to probably reword the
So
motion.
go ahead.
I move that the Board of Selectmen make a request to the Park and Rec Department to provide for us alternatives for siting pickleball, permanent pickleball courts in the town of Killingworth within, I don't know, a month, to start the conversation, maybe a report back to discuss it with us.
How about we give them 90 days?
Okay.
'Cause
90 days puts us in November, and then we're already in budget
Well,
season
we
again.
get it into budget season. The reason I say 90 days, Jim, well, I'll second that.
Okay, thank you.
And then, I say 90 days, Jim's on vacation now, and we're gonna have fall ball starting up. I think 90 days gives them enough time to act.
Okay.
Please pass on to Parks and Recs if they need input to contact myself or Jackie.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
I
Aye.
would just, I would add to the motion to include input from the pickleball community.
The picklets.
Is there, do you have an associate, Mr. Long? Mr. Long, do you have an association in Killingworth? Is there a formal group at this point, or is it sort of
It's
a collective?
informal, but we have
It's a
our the
collective?
website and everybody checks out what,
What's the website?
you know, I can't tell you off the top of my head. My
It's an
webpage
app, isn't it? Isn't it an app where everybody
it's-
figures out where they're going to play
Yep,
pickleball?
that's exactly right.
I need somebody to play with, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
What time are you available, stuff
Yeah.
like that.
All right, so,
All
We'll
right.
get the information.
did we vote?
Uh,
We moved it, did we vote?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Who wants lessons?
If I had time. Through town events, we have two. One is the Smilo Closer to Free, an event close to my heart. And the 5th annual Connecticut Care Grand Fondo on Saturday, September 17th, 2022. I move to, allow the Board of Selectmen to allow me to approval of these through town events.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Discussion about town property, I'm going to table that to executive session.
Do we need to make a motion to change the agenda to do that?
I will, after we go through the rest of it, I spoke with Elizabeth.
You just moved to table.
We moved
Move
to
to
table,
table.
and then
You just need to
after, after
Okay.
first selectman comments, I'll go into executive
All right.
session. All right,
Wait, so did you have a second on the move to table?
oh, sorry.
Second, I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Thank you. Old business, the KVFC KAA pension plan, we did receive an updated draft of that document from the pension attorney. And I met with Dan O'Sullivan, and now Todd Hayjack is participating as trustee, seeing as how Rick Darren has moved into the role of fire chief. So we had a review of that. I've sent back our comments back to the pension attorney, and she's gonna get back to us next week, so we should have a document fairly soon. I will say it's been a good exercise, it's something we needed to do. And even if it takes a little longer, it's better to have this document before.
Yep,
I agree, 100%.
I agree.
Alright, the personnel manual, I sent you,
Can I just ask for clarification? You mentioned, Todd
Hayjack,
is now trustee,
correct.
and the makeup of the fire commission now is Don, Todd, and who's the third?
Jen Lipjack, is it? So, but Todd is serving as trustee for the pension plan.
For the pension plan, he's not a fire commissioner.
Correct.
Does Rick remain on the fire commission?
No, he steps down because he's the fire chief now.
So is there a vacancy to fill there?
Good question, I'll have to double
check.
Yeah, all right.
But I just wanted you guys to know that we
Yep,
are
all right.
making, we're definitely making progress.
All right.
And I'll tell you, that's a document that, it's a tough read, but it's it's good stuff.
Yeah.
It's kinda like the personnel manual, so
Yeah.
I did send you my red line edits, for the personnel manual. I don't know how you want to proceed, if you want me to hold a special meeting to go through it again, because I just went through and made all the changes I saw fit. But I'll ask Elizabeth to try to figure out when we can schedule a special meeting to go through
All right.
all of those.
All right, I appreciate that you did this, it was a cleaner read for me. I think that we've captured the spirit of a lot of this stuff. There are a few highlights that I do have questions on, but we need to take it up in that special meeting.
Absolutely, but I think if I didn't do it this way, we'd never make progress.
We were making good progress last fall, I thought,
Yeah,
or was
but
it
then-
winter? I
But then
can't even
life
remember
gets
it
in the
all,
way.
yeah. It sure does.
All right, so we'll schedule a special meeting. The RFP for custodial services, I didn't have many comments. I mean, it's a lot for us to take on, it's a bigger bread box than I'm used to seeing, but let's see what we get for bites.
I think that's the right approach, Nancy, because we can always shoot for the sun and take the moon.
Okay.
But I think, I think we gotta, this town is coming of age, we've got municipal facilities. I can't believe we got through COVID without those kinds of services, but, the public is in these buildings and other buildings. Let's see what we come up with.
All right, so I move to execute the RFP for custodial services as presented.
A second.
And I'll work with the dates and things that need to be.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 All right, Selectmen's comments.
I just had one more like a question. With all of this work that we're doing, it seems to me we've got an annual report that's long overdue. Isn't that true?
The annual reports, I believe the Board of Finance, for those 2 years that were not, they're summarizing them, and we don't have an overall report. So we're gonna have our annual report coming up this year.
I'm not sure I understand.
So there was, we
So
didn't-
19 and 20, 20 and 21?
I think 19 and 20, 20 and 21. And I need to follow up with Rob to see where they're at with those annual reports. I didn't know if they needed a Board of Selectmen summary. They did not reach out to me for one of those because it would be difficult for me.
Yeah,
to do that.
I'm not putting it on you, I just wanna
Yeah.
make sure we as a town, make sure that.
Yeah,
And under the previous administration, I thought there was some pull to do it out of the Board of Selectmen's office, which, I think it's always been done by the Board of Finance, but
Yeah.
the fact is we need to get it done.
it has to get,
So-
yeah, we're 2 years behind.
Yeah.
So when is the 21-22 due? Have we started working on the 21-?
21-22 is not due until after the audit of 21-22.
Okay, so the 2021 would come due when? The audit was completed,
Audit was
They're
complete.
supposed to
back,
be
like,
voted on in January of
Yeah.
the following year.
So we're behind.
and who does it get reported to? Is it just to the town, not just to, is it to our constituents in town?
Yeah.
It-
Goes
it
No
becomes-
outside
goes to town
entities,
meeting.
right?
Yeah, it becomes an
To town meeting.
annual report,
Mm.
goes to town meeting. All right, selectmen's comments.
Is that it? I just wanted to say a couple things. You had received an invitation to go to Turnbridge for and thank you for forwarding that. I was able to go. It's a new center that's being opened up in town for, it's a private,
Rehab.
yeah, for young ladies on Parker Hill Ridge. And I thought that they did a beautiful job with the facility, thinking about what needs to be done, planning, and also in educating the folks that live nearby. And so they spent several hours talking to the folks that live in the vicinity. Some have been heavily engaged in giving them guidance. I thought they listened to the questions, they were quite responsive. They gave personal cell phone numbers out to neighbors, so that if any issues, they talked about whatever issues they'd had at their other facilities. They have quite a few, they have, I think, 27 facilities now in the state, for young men and young women and combinations in some places. And I was thoroughly impressed with the facility, what they're providing, and what a great use of that space. I'm grateful that it wasn't turned into another housing complex in town. So I think it was lovely to see, and I think it's gonna make a difference in a lot of young people's lives and their families' lives. So kudos to them. It's a great opportunity for our town to have that here. And I did want to follow up with a question on the affordable housing thing. I don't know if this is the right time, but we talked about it came up in the minutes from the last meeting, from the July 11th meeting, I guess, about the assessors looking into responding to the request regarding the deed restrictions, and will also consider the inclusion of the rent restricted apartments at the traffic circle. Was there an update to that you're aware of?
I do not, that I'm aware of, so.
Okay. So maybe we could put that on the next meeting just for follow-up. And I just want to thank you for your consideration again for the pickleballs. And hopefully it makes a difference and we can make it happen, so thank you.
Thank you. Lou, anything for you?
Yeah, there was one other item that had to do with the sustainability committee.
Oh,
Do you
yeah.
remember that?
Yeah, we didn't vote on it the last meeting.
We didn't.
And it was not on the agenda for this meeting.
So Dawn's recollection was that the Weddish, going back to when, I believe it was the Weddish committee was spun off of another committee, and it was up to Conservation Committee to nominate these people to serve. So that's where we left off. I got an email from Stephanie on Friday, too late to add to the agenda for this meeting.
Okay.
But I will follow up to make sure we're cohesive with the appointment of those individuals.
And could we have the benefit of whatever history Dawn's
Yes,
providing?
yes, I'll make sure I do
All right.
that.
Thank you.
All right.
So my comments, and thank you, Jamie, for going to Turnbridge. I wasn't available. I'm trying to make I wanna go walk in at any point in time. I told him I'd make an appointment. The director of that facility actually lives in town, so.
I think
Brett?
it's the second one, Brett Tiberio.
Right, yes, so he
But
does
you can't go in now after August 1st, now that there are clients there, we
He
can't.
did say he would make accommodations, so we'll see. But I wanna personally thank town hall staff. My town hall staff stepped up. Tax season here in town is crazy. And I will say, I saw Michelle was in there, Elizabeth was in there. If anyone had to do something to help Michelle get through tax season, they all stepped up, so kudos to all of them. I also wanna say that the town received a check from Kerma for $5,039. So what, Kerma is our insurance company that's where we do all of our insurance premiums. What they do is they look around all of the towns, and if the towns are good at their risk management, and if they've been overpaid, they'll return a refund to the town. So we received a $5,039 check from them, and they've been able to do that for 11 out of the past 12 years we've paid them.
First payment for pickleball.
So Beechwood residents are experiencing septic issues. Our ordinance 445-20, maintenance of existing systems, requires septic tanks or septic systems to be pumped out only once every 5 years. And looking at Clinton, they have included in their ordinance for manufactured home parks to be pumped out every 3 years. So my recommendation is I'll confirm with Dave T on next steps, and then figure out if we need to revise that moving forward. We were at a meeting at Beechwood, Dick Blumenthal was there.
Who's responsible for the pump out outs.
The pump outs are the residents, we just need to revise our ordinance.
I think it would be careful with that. And the reason I say that is while mobile home parks generally have an increased frequency, we really have a very special mobile home park in that we have oversized lots. My guess is that we have larger septic systems, and I don't want to add an already strained community with another cost.
Well, let's see how this plays out. I'll speak with Dave Teeth and see where the obligations lie.
All right.
Well, when you said, and I'm sorry, because I'm not, I know they have a lot of issues there, but it's the first I've heard of septic issues. So you said they have septic issues. Can you explain what that is?
They literally have septic pumping into their homes. So their septic systems are pumping into their bathrooms.
Is it individual systems for each home?
Correct. Every home has an individual system, and
Do we know whether the systems that have failed have been maintained?
they're all, that's a good question, but they're all aging, because these go back to the sixties and
Yeah.
seventies.
So when the Water Pollution Control Authority for the town of Killingworth was dissolved and moved to the Board of Selectmen or the first Selectmen, is the record keeping sent to the town now at probably CRAHD for the number of pumps?
Yeah, we should
So-
probably, this is my comments, I'm just
Yeah.
giving you.
Oh, I'm sorry,
feedback.
I'm sorry, yeah.
Nancy,
Yeah,
that's-
Yeah,
but no, we probably should have this let's add this as an agenda item as at our next meeting.
Those systems fall under state control. They oversee them, they design them, they approve them. The town has nothing to do with them. Our health department doesn't even ever look at them.
So,
They're not on our water pollution control
They don't-
register of systems and
The
pump outs?
pump outs don't get reported to the town?
I think they may, you'd have to ask
Yeah,
Robin.
that's the question that I would ask,
there's more,
because
we
through the
have
water,
more questions to
the
address.
pump outs normally for water pollution control have to be provided to the Water Pollution Control Authority, which was dissolved and, I think forwarded to the town Board of Selectmen or to the first Selectmen, I can't remember which, to the Board of Selectmen. I've never seen the pump outs, we haven't looked at them since I've been, I've only been here a few months, but would be, I guess my question, if we're not in discussion yet, we are, I'm sorry, but would be to probably get that information to see if we can look to see if anybody's tracking.
Well, I'll
It
add
might
that,
actually be in one of the reports you have here.
I'll add that as an agenda item.
That does.
She does maintain those records.
Alright, so, and then lastly, I did request a quote to have the bushes replaced,
Replaced.
because to have them weeded and trimmed back, it's more cost effective to have them pulled out and put in new ones.
I'm good with that.
So,
While
Yes,
they're at
sir.
it, can we trim back the ones that are sort of choking off the entrance to the back there?
yes, so we have that request out there, and I think that makes sense. Alright, everyone, we're gonna go into executive session, so,
Can I add one follow-up from the Board of Ed?
Yes.
My apologies to our administration, Jennifer Miller is the name of our new assistant superintendent.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was like, J, and then I came in after I was done with my session, so thank you.
so everybody,
Add that in.
thank you. Everybody have a good night, cause I'm gonna move us to go into executive session.